Hello guys, welcome back, and you are here at the final of the first ESL UK Premiership Open Qualifier. It is the two giant powerhouses of UK esports going toe-to-toe in a best of three. Infused versus FM. Asigilus is here with me. Let's get through to the picks and bans.
All right, so straight off the bat, some fairly interesting ones here. Gragas, aimed over at Nutri, obviously did just receive a buff in 5.5 as well. I don't think we've seen as much of him as we probably should. I think he is a very strong jungler right now, so not too surprising of a ban. And interestingly, we were talking about Infused earlier in their semifinal match against Divine, not normally a team that bans out specific players. They normally just go for pain picks that really cause them trouble, immediately respecting FM's jungler. So, kind of breaking that mold a little bit here.
Yeah, and that's actually a Nidalee and a Gragas going against Nutri there. And as FM always do, they ban out Irelia versus Tundra. He's had a couple of highlight videos on the front page of Reddit a few times around of him playing Irelia to an absolutely fantastic degree. That's interesting. They've gone for Sion, Jarvan, and Fizz. I'm trying to work out where this Fizz could be working his way into, because he's likely not going to be top lane, I assume.
Well, there could potentially be a silent support, something I've seen a few times.
I have seen silent support a few times. Maybe they were saving this for FM. And so Scott going to be getting one of his best AD carries on that Corki, and obviously they've got that flex pick now in the form of Morgana. Tundra could take that towards the top lane, or could easily go over to Quinsk in the bot lane.
That would be interesting. Lux being hovered over here, actually.
That's for Alchemist, yeah.
Yeah, that would be a pretty cool pickup if they do decide to go for it.
I think Ziviz is Alchemist. I believe he might have changed his name. I'm not so sure, but anyway, Lux, if they do pick it up, would be a very Alchemist-esque champion to pick. So, looks like a Nunu being potentially locked in here too. This is such a weird team.
What's going on?
Is this going to be Nunu jungle, Corki Janna bot lane, Tundra on that Morgana in the top lane? Kind of like a protect comp, I guess?
You've got to run something pretty damagey in the mid lane, or top lane if the Morgana pick is going over onto Ziviz from the side of FM to make this comp work, I think.
Yeah. Very, very interesting.
All right, so looking at the side of Infused, I'm also very interested to see how they round this out. It could be a Fizz in the mid lane, something we haven't talked about. Never mind, it's not a Fizz in the mid lane. It is going to be, I believe, a support Sion. That could be a support LeBlanc. Also something you occasionally see. I think it's less likely.
And an Ezreal mid lane, so... Wow, look at these team compositions. They are so very interesting. It's Sion support for Wawa with Jinx in the AD carry position. You've got Ulfrin on that LeBlanc, probably going to win out fairly heavily, one would assume, against that Ezreal. Chunky going to be on that Fizz in the top lane, actually just swapping between Chunky and Wawa.
This is so BM.
This is so BM. This is just so confusing at this point in time. I believe Tundra may have a difficult time if this is indeed Fizz top lane, but wow, this is just all over the place right now.
In a few tournaments I've been to, there are rules against swapping past a certain point because, people need to do their masteries and such. But, when you pick a comp like this, you could really run any of these things in a lot of different locations. I'm excited to see the new jungle, especially, though, because that is one of my favorite things.
In the jungle? Could even put Fizz in the jungle and put Jarvan top lane and just really screw over Tundra.
That was a very last-second swap to exhaust, by the way, on Wawa. They weren't sure what they wanted to run in that bot lane, I think, until the very last second.
There's no overlays for the summoner spells for the ESL overlays, so it's actually just sort of like, well, I'm running Ignite until the last moment, and then I've got Exhaust. So, they can't swap accordingly, and it's kind of like a last-minute swap when you don't have overlays. But, yeah, this is interesting. These are such two very, very, very cool team competitions coming out from both sides. And I have seen support Sion from time to time. The Roar of the Slayer is actually incredibly good just through base damages at harassing, and it doesn't cost that much mana either. Also allows you to push lanes very quickly. Alongside Jinx's Fishbones, you can imagine that Wawa and Toaster will be pushing those lanes incredibly quickly. I gotta say, Ezreal in the mid lane versus LeBlanc would seem like a matchup that LeBlanc is very, very favoured. she can easily juke out the Mystic shots. Likely won't be taking as much burst damage in return for the damage that she can put down. I imagine Ezreal is going to be very, very defensive. Nutri on Nunu is not something I've seen too much in the current meta. I mean, when was the last time you saw Nunu jungle played, Sigilus?
I think I might have seen one at Epic LAN, but don't quote me on that because there were a lot of games that weekend and it blended into one somewhat. But certainly Nunu in this composition does some cool things, right? Like the slow field from that absolute zero is really useful keeping people off your back line. The attack speed slow is going to be good against the Fizz, Chunky and also Toaster. And just providing that attack speed buff to someone like Sir Scott is going to be pretty cool as well. I want to touch on this mid lane again real quick. In addition to just sort of the natural difficulty that an Ezreal is going to have against a LeBlanc, if LeBlanc maxes Distortion, Ezreal's constantly going to be under his tower, which is kind of, especially early on, makes it very difficult for him to CS. He's also taken heal, which is confusing to me, considering that it seems fairly obvious that Ulfrin would have been going for the Ignite, and something like Barrier would have been more useful.
Yeah, I'm also interested because there's a lot of ways that you can build Ezreal in the mid lane. The people have been bringing AP Ezreal back into the meta. It takes a long time for AP Ezreal to get to a position where he's viable as a damaging carry. But that is one way that they can choose to go. It probably would mean that he trades fairly effectively with the LeBlanc if he is AP. There's a lot more tools for him to get damage down as LeBlanc's trying to trade with him. You're a little bit more bursty as that AP Ezreal. But it would be more than likely that I would assume he'll be going for the AD, so the Triforce build. I wouldn't expect him to be going for the blue build Ezreal just because of the team comp he's facing up against. The extra armor won't do him much good.
He needs the damage too. I mean,
Yeah,
if you look at the composition that FM are running, you need that mid laner to be damagey. It's what we were talking about just a little while ago. I like that they went for the AD carry in the mid lane, and Ezreal's probably one of the few AD carries in the mid lane that works. But another cool thing about him going AD this game rather than AP or blue build is that it's going to help him CS under the tower, and he's going to be doing a lot of that against a LeBlanc that's most likely going to be maxing Distortion.
What's actually also super interesting is obviously the Nunu has a nice bit of synergy with the Morgana. In fact, in the fact that if Morgana throws her ultimate down on the Nunu ultimate, it's going to be a lot harder for the Infused lineup to escape those soul shackles. And it just allows free reign of Sir Scott and Zivis to do their thing in the backline and just do as much damage as physically possible. Got to admit, Nutri's going to have to go full tank at this point because there isn't any form of front line for the FM lineup. So they're probably going to be relying on him to be their major front line. And that kind of puts pressure on Nutri to get a lot of income to get towards a big tanky phase. Because if you get past him, there isn't much else in the way of you completely ripping to shreds the FM backline.
That is very true. And I actually think, given the buffs to the tanks in the jungle as of the last patch, he is going to have an easier time of accomplishing that goal. He can go for the Bemai's Cinder, I believe it's called, into the Cinder Hulk enchantment, and he's going to be very, very tanky. If he puts that on a Ranger's Trailblazer, he'll be able to farm up quite nicely. And Nunu has always had, and will always have, decent ganking pressure with the snowballs, so he can maybe snowball some of his other lanes to a good position as well.
Snowball, I just picked up on that incredibly witty pun right there. I'm wondering about if at all there will be any counter jungling coming out from Nutri. It looks like he's going to be trying to start on the opposite side of the map to the Jarvan. I think they've tried to locate where that Jarvan is, and Nutri now starting at this red buff. It means he may try and look for a quick steal onto the red buff of Jarvan. So he is starting the opposite side of the map. Maybe he's just looking for the counter jungle.
That'd be interesting too, and to be honest, it'd be something that would actually be quite advantageous to FM. If he goes for a counter jungling style this game, he's going to be shutting down a lot of the pressure that Dandy can provide with his ganks, because he won't be as strong. Which, given the fact that FM are looking for a later game fight, is pretty viable.
Yeah, so Nutri going to be taking away the Grom, not actually looking to actively take that first buff and then move immediately to the second buff of the Jarvan, but he's going to take away this blue buff now. With that consume, going to has he used his smite? I don't think. Yeah, he has used his smite, so he's got the buff from the Grump. So won't have that up for going for the red buff. Actually, Wawa sticking around here. He's leaving leaving the bot lane to have Toaster go toe-to-toe with Tundra and heading up to support Rifty in that top lane, which will give Rifty a little bit of an easier time. I have to kind of wonder how Toaster is going to do versus Tundra, because doesn't look like it would be a great matchup for Tundra, because there's not much that he's really going to be able to spell shield, bar the Zap and the Flame Chompers, but it's unlikely that those will be coming into play in this lane.
The good news is that he can shove relatively well, especially if he gets some early AP. Look at that trade, by the way, in the mid lane. It is really already struggling in this matchup like we were expecting, and Sir Scott completely whiffing a Phosphorus Bomb in the top lane.
Yeah, and actually Chunky now having a little bit of an easier time. I actually thought that Dandy was going to be heading towards the jungle of Nutri to take away that red buff, which I assumed he was doing just because of the way that he moved towards that side, but he actually ended up backing. Nutri can get spotted out by a minion wave here, and they're going to be pinging back, so they know that he's got Dandy's red buff now, which, interesting pathing. I think maybe he was looking to take away the golems, but did give away his position. He's going to go take the river, the Rift Scuttler while he's at it. Yeah, I mean, this is actually not too bad for Infused. They reacted a lot more quickly to the lane swap than they did do in the Divine game. And they've put Wawa and Chunky together, though two melees versus the Janna and Borky may not be the best matchup for them.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of pressure coming out of Sir Scott and Quinsk, but, you know, it's interesting that Nunu showed himself the way he did. It's one of those things where it's very easy to not let that happen because your wave hits that point at the exact same time. So all you have to do is check your top lane wave or your bot lane wave to gauge whether or not you're going to be spotted out like that.
Yeah, I mean, it actually gave away that he was heading back up towards his own jungle, so maybe it was a little bit of mind games. He's kind of thrown in the fact that, actually, Jarvan, don't take my red buff because I'm already heading there, so you won't get it. And actually, Nutri leaving that red buff up means that he actually will probably have 2 full red buffs by the time that he chooses to go and get the next one. So he's making full efficiency of that red buff, not choosing to take away that red buff early.
Top lane, Nutri's coming in here, so Scott Valkyrie's forward. Wawa is going to be the focus. He does have Flash available, gonna get it off. Nice job knocking up Sir Scott, keeping the damage off of him. Mid lane, though, Ziv is very low. The Ignite's ticking, a heal comes out, and he just gets away from that. Ulfrin very low as well. Burning both Ignite and Flash is going to reduce the kill pressure in that mid lane a lot for Infused.
Yeah, but Ignite and Heal also going down for Ziviz in that mid lane. So, again, it's just a lane that Ezreal really does struggle into. You just can't combat the burst that comes out from LeBlanc. He's going to lose a massive minion wave to turret here. 10 CS behind at this point. Once it hits level 6, it's going to be even harder for Ziviz to keep himself alive. He's gone for that tier too, so immediately looking to stack up that tier going towards the Mana Moon, which is obviously a very, very powerful tool when you have that tier fully stacked, but hasn't gone for any combat stats per se. Maybe just looking to consistently get those Mystic shots off, but it's going to be so difficult now for him to trade with that LeBlanc.
Oh, bot lane. 3 members trying to get onto Tundra here. I think he's too close to his tower, though, to be honest. At most, a Flash being burned. At least the Black Shield doing some serious work, dancing a little bit there, just showing off that he's able to get away. But Wawa rotating back to this bot lane, I guess they're not feeling like having the support in the top lane is working out well enough for them.
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe they're looking to leave Sir Scott alone versus Rifty, but I'm not sure that's the key idea, and I think they do realise now that leaving Sir Scott alone against Rifty would ultimately spell his demise, potentially at level 6. So they're just going to try and freeze this lane out, allow Sir Scott to get some farm up, because he's a little bit behind his counterpart at this moment in time, and you've got to remember, if you give Jinx free farm, she will scale eventually a lot better than Corki, but Corki does have that more powerful mid-game spike once he finishes that Trinity Force and potentially those Sorcerer's Shoes.
Yeah, and I think a large part of the reason why Sion has moved now down to this bottom lane is just how well Tundra is doing relative to Rifty, right? Like, he is 20 CS up and also not under much pressure. You know, no one has really threatened him. Both his summoners are available still. You know, whereas Wawa had to burn the Flash in a 2-person lane.
I've actually realized
Tundra is doing a really solid.
I've actually realized that Ziviz is not actually Divot. I thought it was a DX, but it's not. He's I think he's an EU.
Oh, mid lane. The Arcane Shift right into the flag and drag. First blood going over to Ulfrin. Very nice gank there from Dandy, securing an early lead in the mid lane.
Yeah, that was definitely needed, and it means they have the pressure to go for Dragon. Obviously, Nutri has a lot of pressure himself. He can go for the steal, but I don't think he'll be in a position with the bot lane top. It'll be a 2 versus 4. I'm not sure that's the most sensible decision to go for the counter here. Tundra just looking to get some damage down on
Soul Shackle's going down, but they don't really spend any time on the target. Toaster trying to get the Death Rocket out, but not quite landing it. Nutri, I don't think he's going to be able to steal this away, to be honest. There's too many members of Infused around here. Tundra needs to be a little bit careful as well not to get caught out. No mana for a Black Shield. Flash forward by Toaster. Flame Chompers go down. The Black Shield is late. Tundra is going to fall to Toaster, and that's a nice pickup for Infused, a Dragon and a kill.
Yeah, unfortunately, FM not really playing this to the best of their advantage. I got to say, though, I do still questioning the Ezreal pick into this LeBlanc pick. You knew that you were going to struggle in terms of burst damage, and you don't want LeBlanc to get
Nutri! What is he doing? Tries to go forward to get the consume on the blue buff, ends up getting exhausted, doesn't do the damage he expects, and he gets picked off there. Bottom lane from Infused is doing very well this game.
Yeah, I mean, this is just some questionable decision-making coming out from the FM lineup. And like I said, if LeBlanc gets ahead against this lineup, you've got basically 4 squishies and a tank. She will be able to blow up one of your team, for sure. And you know, especially when you damage. I didn't see what happened, but he nearly died.
He nearly got taken down by the red buff. Had to back off at the last second, actually, wasting quite a lot of time, to be honest.
Channeling his inner broken shard. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. I mean, in the meantime, it's going to be so difficult here for FM's backline to survive, especially when you're giving a lot of gold away to big, basically executors. Like the Jinx Ultimate will be doing a lot of work. Ulfin will be doing a lot of work on that LeBlanc, and as you can see, Zivas is having to farm with his Mystic Shot at the moment. He's having to be really, really careful.
With the blue buff and the tier, though, he can certainly afford to do that.
100%, yeah.
One thing I was going to mention, though, with him dying earlier on, there is a secondary advantage to killing off the Ezreal right now. In addition to the fact that obviously you get the gold and he dies for a little bit, anytime he's spending dead is him spending not stacking up his tier. And that's the big power spike when the Muramana actually finishes charging on the Ezreal. So the fact that happened, oh, hang on, top lane, Danny going in, Sir Scott able to Valkyrie out there, good Howling Gale, and just backing away, to be honest. Bot lane, Tundra throwing down the Soul Shackles, Wawa is locked up under the tower, the rocket misses, Wawa goes down, Toaster taking 2 tower shots. That is a very bad idea, but Wawa picks it up, the zap, oh, it was so close. Toaster nearly picking up 2 there.
Yeah, I think Nutri almost completely forgot the damage that Sion could do. Oh,
the snipes! It just gets it!
Tundra, that was beautiful mind games from Tundra. He was almost hitting him to stay in on the turret, saying just stay there, let the Ezreal ultimate do the work, and it did. Nice turnaround for FM. They managed to pick up some gold where they really shouldn't have been allowed to. I think Nutri completely forgot about the damage that the ultimate from Sion can, the passive from Sion can do, and took a lot of damage from both Jinx and Sion there.
Yeah, one thing I want to draw attention to real quick: the farm between Tundra and Chunky is growing ever further apart. It was only a 20 lead earlier on, but now it is looking closer to 40. The top lane tower is going to fall as well. So gold-wise,
There's Scott and Toaster too. It's also at 20. So the lane swap actually, although it may have looked like it backfired, in terms of global farm, really gone in favour of FM. They've allowed Sir Scott a lot of time, a lot of gold to work towards that Trinity Force, and he's very, very nearly there.
Oh, mid lane, Ulfrin having to do some fancy footwork to get out of that one. Zivas really isn't that much of a threat at the moment, though. I don't think Ulfrin was too afraid of that regardless.
No, but he's doing a good job of stabilizing that lane. I really thought he would go a lot further behind after that first kill, but once he's managed to stabilize, he's actually doing really, really well at this point in time, and he's farming well compared to what you'd expect against the LeBlanc. He's about 20 behind, but that'll quickly start to stack up as he gets the AD in the bag. Actually, he has to be very careful here. Wawa just trying to clear out that pink ward.
Nutri actually coming in, does get knocked up. Ulfrin jumps towards and lands that ethereal chain, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. The mimicked version coming down, Quince falling very low, execute coming in from Toaster, and now there's a teleport. Zivis uses his E to blink forward, but maybe not at the right time. Tundra in the back line, picking up Ulfrin and Toaster, and Sir Scott, he is going to be the next target to fall. Chunky doing some seriously good damage onto him. Wawa surviving throughout this entire fight. Overall, that was a 3-for-2 in favor of Infused, but very, very close. Could have gone the other way without too much hassle.
Yeah, very aggressive play there. I think a lot of mispositioning from the FM lineup. So Scott stuck in no man's land. A nice flash in by Tundra to pick up the kill and the ultimate, but he doesn't have the Zhonya's. He's only got that Morella Nomicon, meaning he won't survive long once that ultimate's coming down from him. Once he gets the Zhonya's, he'll be in a lot better position to do those kind of plays, but it was a bit more of a, I need to make this play as opposed to I want to make this play. So he needed to do it to try and turn the team fight around. I mean, both teams could have backed off there, but neither team chose to. A nice ultimate from Toaster as well means he picked up the kill onto Quinsk, who's also struggling at this point in time, giving it a bit of a tough time.
Yeah, he is definitely having a bit of a tough time. The toughest time is definitely between the top laners. I mean, Chunky, like we're saying, very far behind in CS, but he is kind of catching up now. And now that they've swapped to this 1 versus 1 situation in the top lane, Fizz does pretty well against Morgana. So I imagine, he's going to be catching up relatively fast.
Yeah, very much so. This may be even the mid lane turret going down as Toaster doing a good job. Attack speed does get slowed by the snowball.
Here comes the collapse from FN though. Nutri coming in, trying to land some slows. The binding, it lands on the wall. That's a lot of poke. Dandy covering his team with a good flag and drag. And the retreat is in full force. Coming out of Infused, Nutri trying to stick onto the team. They're binding. Not going to land this time. Here comes Ulfin going on Tundra. Doesn't pick it up. Has to jump back to that distortion pad. Now Zivis getting hit by the flag and drag. Here comes Chunky. Is it going to be enough? Yes, Chunky hit by the binding under the tower though. That's a lot of damage. One more shot. Not quite enough, but Sir Scott picks it up with the rocket smite. Snipe even. Nice job there. Dandy gets hit by the binding, but that is not going to be enough. Good flag and drag away. Very even fights at the moment. They're very back and forth, the Scoundrel.
Yeah, they're going to put a lot of pressure onto this mid lane tower as well. Wawa and Toaster are going to do their best job of defending it.
Oh, the binding, it lands! The ultimate comes out, but it's not enough. Nutri walking away. Monsoon saving his life. Roar the Slayer, not enough. And if Ulfrin can't really afford to go in here either, very low health, doesn't have his passive off cooldown to escape. And now, actually, FM looking like they might want to go towards this dragon.
I am very impressed with Tundra's bindings this game. I say that as he just misses one. He's actually hit some really key targets at the critical times as well. And picking up that Jinx, very, very good for them. They managed to get a kill onto her, trying to force her away from picking up the amount of gold that she's been picking up at this moment in time. Has been a Trinity Force finish for Sir Scott too. He has got a lot of mana.
Here comes the rest of Infused. Sir Scott does manage to dodge the knock-up, but the Cataclysm finds his target. He is very low. Tundra gonna flash over the wall towards his tri-bush, but there's no tower there to run to. He's gonna have to get out of there very quickly. Zivis is now regrouping with the rest of his team, putting down some damage. Ulfrin is in base though, so a lot of the damage for Infused isn't here due to the fact that he had to back out. But Infused, they are now in the prime position to go for this dragon when it looked like, to be honest, FM wanted to pick it up for themselves.
I'm trying to work out why they were sticking around with such low mana. I think the best thing for them would have been to back off and then to try and come back to Dragon once they managed to recuperate their mana. You had Tundra, who had literally no mana to do anything there, and Sir Scott had probably the mana for 1 or 2 spells. Both of those champions need spell casting to make their builds work, and unfortunately just a bit of a misplay from FM there. They really should have thought about the resources that they had in their bank, and unfortunately didn't quite think about it in the full extent.
Yeah, not ideal for them. Ziv is going to be trying to pick up his blue buff here. He really needs that to just keep up the mana when he's spamming Mystic shots so frequently. I'm interested to see what you think about this. In terms of the game plan for FM, right, the sort of double carry, lots of support composition, do you think they're on track for the late game they're looking for here? I'm kind of afraid that they're not really in a position to fight how strong Ulfrin is getting. Toaster as well, getting fairly strong, going to be able to burst down those carries, even with the support that's coming up from FM's line.
I mean, considering their composition, they're only about 1k gold behind at this point. It's not the end of the world. A lot of the gold is situated on Dandy. He's 303 on that Jarvan. And he's not building full damage. He's actually gone completely tank, which is, I actually don't think, too bad for the FM lineup at this point in time. They really could be in a very, very... they could be in a worse position, essentially. But Ziv is going to be getting all of the buffs as Wawa gets locked up here.
Oh, man, Binding Lambs. There's a lot of poke onto him, actually. Here comes Sir Scott. Ziv is with the True Fire Barrage snipe. And Sir Scott taking loads of damage from that, kind of softening him up for Ulfrin if he wants to jump in, try and hit that assassination. The Siege, I'm pretty sure, is going to be repelled here. There's a lot of wave clear on the side of Infused right now.
Yeah, I think the only issue with the comp from FM is if they do catch someone, especially across a wall or across an obstacle, there isn't any gap-closing ability to follow up with someone who could survive the gap-closing perils. I.e., they don't have a jungler like Jarvan who can jump over the wall and lock one up.
Ulfrin going in. I don't know about that. Has to burn the zombies to avoid the snowball. Tundra locked inside the Cataclysm. Great Absolute Zero zoning for a very long time, but here comes Toaster. There are some serious deeps coming out of that girl, and now the rocket landing down onto Quinsk. Is he going to be able to get away? Yes, just about. War of the Slayer not quite got the range to pick up that one, but Infused finding himself a nice kill onto Tundra and a lot of pressure on the mid lane. Ziviz, though, putting down some hurt on the Toaster. They're going to have to back off.
Yeah, Wawa already back into the fray here, and he is ready to make his presence felt. But yeah, like I said, they could be in a worse position. They're slowly creeping behind in the gold total scores. They have lost 2 dragons. They do need to be careful about that. I think they'll be looking to contest the 3rd dragon fairly readily. They just need to get Ziviz potentially his Triforce, and then he'll be more of a threat. Right now, he's only got that mana meme. It's very nearly Mura mana, but obviously you'll be absolutely hemorrhaging mana.
Ziviz! He gets engaged onto Ulfrin, actually, taking a line to return the True Fire Barrage. It gets it! Ziviz is alive! Wawa now, the focus, gonna get picked up. FM eSports finding themselves a quick 2 kills.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Ziviz knew that was happening, but he definitely panicked and had to flash away there. The ultimate was such a fantastic piece of play. Really enjoyed seeing that. It's the best thing to do with a LeBlanc. If you hit her with a full frontal Ezreal ultimate, you'll be doing a lot of damage. Nice pickup there. And actually, I think, to be honest, I think Ulfrin overestimated his burst.
Absolutely. When you're rushing for Azanias, you're not going to be putting out the same kind of damage output that you would with some other builds. So, although it has saved his life before, maybe he's used to playing with different builds than that and not anticipating how low his damage is going to be.
It's just the gold input for Zhonya's and the ability power output compared to some of the other builds that you could have gone definitely lowers your burst. Especially as he hasn't gone Morella Nomicon or anything like that, so grievous wounds won't be applied. So when Ziviz does choose to heal or gets a little bit of health back from auto-attacking and the like, it's a little bit more difficult to get the burst down. If you'd gone Morella Nomicon, you would have had the extra cash to go for something more bursty. But having gone for that Zhonya's first, it's very much a defensive investment of your gold, and you won't be doing as much as you would have done if you'd gone through some other builds. Actually, you're seeing how much farm they're funneling onto Ziviz at this point.
Yeah, he is in the position to potentially carry Infused, looking for the catch, but they're being very patient here, not having the itchy trigger finger and going for Quinsk there. And also, Triforce just completed on Ziviz. He's nearly at the Mura mana, but here comes the engage by Dandy, jumping onto Quinsk Cataclysm. He is stuck in there, Monsoon keeping him alive for a little bit, but it's not going to be enough. Toaster trying to run forward, puts down the Flame Chompers. They do not land, and Nutri's going to be able to get out of there safely. All right, so Dandy now clearing out some wards here. Dragon is up in only 35 seconds. Quinsk might not be able to get there in time given his respawn timer, but this could be an opportunity for FM. They could maybe go for a tower here. That looks like what they're going to do. Giving up the 3rd dragon, though, that is potentially quite negative. Here comes the Scion ultimate, though, down the mid lane. Ulfrin jumping in as well. Wawa is not able to land it. And a nice disengage there. They bought a lot of time for Quince to run back towards that dragon pit, and maybe they're going to be looking for this 5 versus 5 fight with the Trinity Force and the Merman complete on Ziviz, this is one of the biggest power spikes that FM are going to have the entire game. Tundra fishing for that binding, not going to find it yet, though.
That was a very risky play. I know he had the did have the black shield up, but he walked straight into Dandy territory. Oh, a lot of burst coming out from Ulfrin. That was a very, very aggressive play at that point. They're actually moving around towards that blue buff.
Tundra not having blue here could kind of be an issue. Similarly, Ziviz not having it. Look at Tundra's mana right now. He is struggling. And actually, Wawa, look at the damage that's coming out from Ziviz. The Dragon, it's been started. Are we going to see an engage here? Very slow reactions, if I'm honest, from FM there. Tundra as well, not having mana, not helping matters. But this mid tower certainly going to go down. FM finding themselves a consolation.
Could even pick up 2 towers here very, very quickly with a double AD comp that's all about pushing towers, and Ezreal especially allowing... I mean, they've basically got a massive attack speed steroid for any of their AD champions that they wish to put on. If you put Blood Boil and the Ezreal attack speed buff onto Sir Scott, you've suddenly got a ridiculous boost to your attack speed. This really is coming into light as a team comp that really just wants to quickly push towers off the back of objectives, or take advantage of a quick lapse and suddenly you've lost 2 towers. Yeah,
that is very true. And another cool thing about Ezreal's Essence Flux, actually, he can now blink into it as of a few patches ago, which is very, very nice. Ziv is trying to go onto Toaster here, blinks over the Flame Chopper. Toaster taking so much damage, having to flash out of there. Is going to survive for now, but that is certainly something that FM like to see. Burning that flash on the primary carry of Infused.
Yeah, and actually everyone is going to be backing and recuperating at this point in time. Tundra needs to be careful, he's got no mana, and Ulfrin is looking for a kill at this point in time.
Does have a lot of damage too, having to flash out of that one. If those chains landed, Tundra would have been biting the dust.
Yeah. Gold advantage in FM's court. They are 3 dragons down there. They need to be very careful the next dragon that comes around, because if they start to lose that 4th dragon, they always have that big 5th dragon worry. And really, I mean, really, they need to take a dragon to get themselves back on level playing fields with the AD and AP bonus that it provides, because that'll be such a huge boost, especially to a double AD composition that runs 2 hybrid carries in the form of Ezreal and Corki. The AD and AP boost will be fantastic for them.
Not to mention the fact that that AD and AP boost is just always best on your AD carry because they build so glass cannon. At least in the early and the mid game, you know, you're pretty much not building any items that don't benefit from having that first dragon. So certainly something that FM are looking to pick up in the near future.
Tundra about to hit a power spike in items, which is going to be that Zhonya's. He'll be a lot more effective in these team fights having that Zhonya's in his back pocket, allowing him to use that ultimate while invulnerable. And that is a big, big thing for a Morgana. And most Morganas will tell you that they do love to have that item in their back pocket. Wawa just, I've been fairly impressed with this Sion. It's been looking like he's been doing a good job. Hasn't actually had many ultimates work out, but he hasn't needed them to. He's been more of an annoyance in the team fight. He's been that guy that, he's such a big character model, you can't help but not ignore him.
Yeah, and really, his ultimates are kind of being used almost as a zoning / a deterrent tool. You know, he ulted to the mid lane, that kind of forced FM off of the tower. Sir Scott, Valkyries right into the face of Wawa and Chunky. Look at how much damage Wawa's taking. The turret shot +1 auto attack finishes him off, even though he was in the middle of running away with the open Nutri. Zoned here with those flame chompers, gets an absolute 0 off, but it's not a very big one. Chunky, he is going to follow Ziviz. Great job there by FM, picking up 2 kills for only the 1 death.
Yeah, not too bad. Nutri managed to prolong that fight. I think Infused were thinking about getting away from that after Wawa went down to the turret, but Nutri managed to bait them in a little bit longer. I think Nutri was in split minds himself about whether he wanted to be on those sides of the flame chompers or not. He did go down, but a nice roam up by Ziviz means he gets another kill in his back pocket. I believe he got the last kill anyway, which meant that he was he's doing quite well at this point.
He is doing very well, and I'm interested to see where he takes his build from here. That's going to be another big question. I think a Last Whisper would be a very solid choice, but you might also see him go for something else that's going to provide him with, for example, more damage on some of the tankier members like a Blade of the Ruined King. It's something that, you know, because your Mystic Shot procs it, is actually not a bad pickup on Ezreal.
Good ward coverage from Infused too. They've got so much control over this mid-dragon area. It's going to be hard for FM to push in themselves without having the complete support of their team. They need to be careful at this point, because without seeing the rest of the Infused members, it's going to be more difficult for them to make something happen around this Dragon area. They're now looking to gain control of it, but Infused don't want to give it up easily.
Yeah, and if Infused can secure this, it is a huge deal for them. It means that for the rest of the game, there is a threat of 5 dragons, and that is extremely, extremely scary.
And especially if you get a tiny glimpse ahead of your opposing team, you know that they won't want to be. They'll be just in desperation trying to contest these dragons. So if you have that threat, oh, Tundra, you need to be careful.
Oh, Dandy jumps on the back line. Sir Scott taking a lot of upfront damage. Nutri doing a good job of zoning people. Zivs annihilates Toaster, and that is pretty much the fight all over for Infused. Sir Scott picking up a kill as well. Wawa, I don't think he's getting this one. FM doing a great job of flanking around the back with Zivs there and instantly obliterating Toaster, who's pretty much the primary damage threat.
Are they going straight for Baron with Nutri? I think they are. They've got the Blade of the Ruin King. They've got Nutri. They're going straight for Baron.
This would be an excellent pickup if they can get it. It really complements what their composition is trying to do. Taking lots of objectives, specifically towers. Having that Baron buff on your minions is really going to allow for that. Not to mention, right after this, they can back with the enhanced recall, hopefully get to Dragon, or maybe just head to Dragon straight away and not give away the fourth one.
I feel like this is a bit of an issue now because they want to contest this Dragon, but look at the health bars and the mana bars on their team. They will get blown up instantaneously with one wrong foot in this team fight. And actually,
Zivs needs to be careful here. Wawa rips the ultimate Quist. Doing a good job of keeping Dandy off him, but a flash forward from Wawa keeping Tundra locked up here. The binding not going to land on anyone important. The rocket blocked by Tundra, who flashes forward with a great soul shackles. Toaster, he is so low. Can he get anyone here? Yes. Picking up Tundra. Nutri next to fall, maybe not quite. Orphan jumping in is able to get that kill, and Infused certainly looking like they're going to be able to take the Dragon. Oh, nice swipe. Snipe even by Zivs in the backline while it is zoning people with his passive here. But I don't think they're going to be able to stop this Dragon. Actually, Ulfrin, very, very low, has to use the Zanyas, is going to fall. But Zivs, he snipes Toaster. Everything is going wrong for Infused. They get the Dragon, but they lose so much as well. Chunky picking up another kill. Can he get the final one to secure the ace? Not quite. Quince getting to safety.
I got to question why they didn't just immediately recall and try to get to the Dragon then. I know it's more risky and you may give it up without even being able to contest it, but they were in no shape to contest that Dragon. Even with the Baron buff, they were in such an unhealthy state. Now they've got to be afraid of that Dragon. They've got to be on point of the next one. If they give up the 5 Dragon buffs, it'll be such a shame because they'll just be so pushed back because of how powerful that Dragon buff is. FM need to keep their lead now. They need to make sure that their next team fight will go their way, because if they lose that Dragon buff, all of their hard work may have been for nothing.
They also traded a lot of the duration of their Baron buff for that fight, and I don't feel like they got enough out of it. They got the gold from Baron. That's pretty much all it's done for them.
Yeah, and to be honest, with their composition, they really wanted that Baron buff on as many members as they could get because they've got such a powerful team-pushing composition. They're going to take these towers with absolute ease, and having those Baron minions makes it 10 times easier for that to happen. It's just the issue now is that they kind of are going to limit the way they can roam across the map. They know that in around 4 minutes' time, there's no way any of their members can be found on the top side of the map, which could give Infused a little bit of impetus to maybe go into a split-pushing tactic with Chunky. I know, because they're not going to be too bothered about giving away a Dragon at this point. They may really want that 5th Dragon, but they know it's not devastating if they lose it.
All right, well, here comes the push from FM. Zivs, though, getting engaged on, actually doing more damage back on Ulfrin than he himself takes. That is the advantage of running a composition with so many shields and supporting abilities. Second time round, Zivs does a little bit less damage back on Ulfrin, but still, Ulfrin is kind of struggling to fulfill his role here.
He's got a Bloodthirster as well on Zivs. It's going to be a couple of Mystic shots and suddenly you're at full HP. So I don't think Zivs is too bothered about taking this kind of poke.
Oh, here comes Wawa going for the ultimate. Dandy coming in from the side, trying to jump on the back. Nutri doing a great job with his slowing field, but Sir Scott has already fallen. Zivs is the only carry left alive for FM, and no one has yet fallen on the side of Infused. Zivs, left to his own devices in the backline, might be able to pick up a few, but actually choosing just to recall, take the safe option. Infused doing a great job in that team fight.
Yeah, kind of feel like FM's decision after that Baron has cost them a lot of momentum in this game, and that momentum has cost them, well, almost the game at this point. I mean, they're still behind Infused in gold, but they definitely are winning these team fights at this point. So Scott just couldn't get out in time. He didn't have that flash available. Zivis got exhausted on the backline, was almost useless at that point. Doesn't have his ultimate available for the wave clear. I think they're just going to have to give away this turret. And at FM, they're going to be asking themselves why they tried to contest that dragon. They had such a lead, and they just kind of threw it away at that point.
And Infused as well have got to be feeling great about getting that tower. To be honest, against a composition that is so good at pushing, every tower you get means a lot more, because it's going to be a bigger struggle now for FM to properly push out the waves when they're not actually present in a lane. The minions are going to be traveling further towards their base, and it's going to be slower for them to then push up. So FM really struggling. Dandy, though, gets soul shackled up in the mid lane. Zephyr comes down. He is taking a lot of damage. Tundra lands another binding through the minions. Dandy going down. He was kind of in no man's land there. I'm not sure what he was thinking.
Yeah. Another thing that's almost interesting, also quite interesting about what's happening.
Oh, hang on a second. Wawa, he's charging down the mid lane, gets onto Tundra and Nutri. Good Black Shield keeping Tundra alive for now. Nutri, though, is being very ineffectual, doesn't get anything off. Now Chunky going towards Tundra. They pick it up with Toaster. Ziv is trying to kite the rocket, not landing on anyone. Can the damage from Ziv and Sir Scott keep them in this? It is going to enforce... Whoa, it forced Infused back from that fight. But Dragon, it's up in 1 minute 30. This could spell the end for FM if they do not do a good enough job of defending it.
Yeah, I mean, and this is what I was saying about that Dragon buff. They, Infused, know they can win team fights now, and they know that FM are going to have to contest a Dragon. That all they need to do is get vision control and look for the superior engage, and suddenly FM are going to be down the hole, because Infused can win team fights. They've shown that they can. They have a really good composition to do that. They have two members that can instantaneously blow up squishies, and when you're running a comp like FM, that's not what you want to be going against. I think this pick from Wawa is doing its perfect job at this moment in time. All he needed to do was be that late game engaging tool to allow Fizz, allow LeBlanc to get some easy picks on slow moving targets that have been knocked up by the Cyanol, and he's doing exactly what he needs to do at this point in time. Really fantastic play from Wawa.
Yeah, I have to say the sign support has made its impact in this game very nicely, and I wouldn't be surprised to see FM respond to it in some way in the second game. Maybe picking it away, maybe banning it, maybe just picking a composition that deals with it a little bit better. Quinn needs to be careful not to get picked up by Olfen there, does a good job of landing the Howling Gale and getting away. And they're just trying to save this blue buff for Zivis a little bit far away. Does pick it up. Dragon, 15 seconds till it spawns. This is the moment of truth for both of these teams. Either way it goes is going to be a big swing.
Yeah, they just... It needs to be FM taking it if they want any chance of staying in the game. I think that would be a correct interpretation of this.
Yeah, pretty much. The ultimate from Ziv is coming out before the fight, not doing anything. Could be a big deal. Here comes Wawa, ultimating yet again, knocks up Quinsk. First ultimate Wawa's landed all game. Dandy is kind of stuck in a bad spot here with Nutri and Sir Scott. Zivis has already fallen though, but by and large, FM doing a great job in this fight so far. Toaster not able to get in a position to be effective. And the Dragon looks like it is actually going to go the way of FM this time, unless a steal comes in somehow from Toaster or Chunky. I highly doubt that is going to happen though.
Yeah, there isn't an ultimate.
Oh, Toaster getting jumped on by Sir Scott. He flashes forward, gets the phosphorus bomb. This is huge for FM.
Yeah, and also Chunky going to be stopped at the turret by Tundra. Massive, massive pickup. FM needed to win that fight, and they have. They've kept their hopes alive. Picked up their first Dragon buff, which means in terms of raw combat stats, they're going to be on a level playing field with Infused now.
Yeah, and that is very, very big for them as well. When you've got so much damage on the side of your double hard carry composition, getting that percentage increase is almost worth more than it normally is. So them getting that and denying the 5th Dragon and getting 4 kills is a huge tempo swing. Baron is up now. That is likely going to be one of the next points for Infused. They do not want to allow FM to just push down lanes. They want to team fight, but do it better than last time.
No one's got a last whisper yet. So when Dandy goes into the front line to try and isolate someone, he's going to be very difficult to take down with the Thornmail that he's just picked up. It looks like Sir Scott has forgone a... Oh, wow.
Gets hit by that. The Soul Shackles does so much damage. Sir Scott getting himself yet another kill. Baron is on the cards for FM.
It looks like Sir Scott has forgone the last bit, but he's going for the Infinity Edge. So they are just saying, actually, we don't really care about the armor that Dandy has put down. And actually, Ziv is trying to do his best job of zoning Dandy.
Look at the damage, Dandy isn't that tanky. Baron goes down. Dandy goes down. FM are just swinging the game in their favor right now. This is going to be a very, very difficult push for Infused to deal with, and it is a critical one at that.
We said they needed to win that dragon fight. As soon as they've won that dragon fight, they've denied the 5th dragon from Infused, and they're suddenly sitting on a nice 6% AD and AP, which is very, very decent when they're coming toe-to-toe with a very, very powerful Infused team. They're going to take this with ease. They have got a fantastic tower-pushing team, and they're going to take this inhibitor 2 to boot.
First inhibitor of the game going down to FM, even though these fights have been going away for a while. Ulfrin, yet again, another binding from Tundra lands. Can they get a kill? Soul Shackles not doing very much. And actually, Absolute Zero getting popped there as well. FM need to be careful not to bite off more than they can chew.
Yeah, they've done it a couple of times this game. They need to make sure that...
Toaster! Ziviz picks up the kill. That signals the all clear to go for the bot lane inhibitor now. I don't know what Infused can do right now, to be honest.
No, as we said, they've just got a team composition that is completely geared towards taking turrets. They've got in the front line. They have got nothing to worry about with Toaster being down. There is no real threat of a backline damage. And they're just going to say, go for it. We don't even mind. Look how quickly they take these turrets.
Oh, Ulfrin gets annihilated. Tundra is quite low. But aside from that, the FM team, very healthy. Monsoon actually healing Tundra up a lot. Chunky has to be careful not to go down here. Quinn's flashing back. Chunky goes down. Game 1 goes over to FM.
Yeah, and I got to say, a lot of this has been how powerful and how on point those bindings from Tundra have been. They have been hitting basically targets that are very hard to lock down, like Fizz and LeBlanc, and locking them down. And it just meant that some really key kills, and to be honest, really great play from FM. I thought they'd potentially thrown it after trying to contest that 4th dragon, but they came back, they won the dragon fight. Ziviz did a fantastic job in that mid lane. Ezreal really survived the storm that he should have endured from the mid lane LeBlanc, and you just can't compete with late game tower pushing like that. If you make one mistake, your entire base will go. And you saw it there. It was a 4v5. Most teams would not take a 4v5 to take down inhibitor turrets, but they knew that the inhibitor turrets would go down in a matter of seconds. They just did not care. That is a fantastic game. First game of the series between FM and Infused going over to the way of FM. It was a hard-fought battle. You wouldn't expect anything less from the top 2 teams here in the UK, but I credit off to them. It was a fantastic first game. We'll be back in 5. We'll bring you the second game of the series, where FM will be looking to close it out as the top seed of the first qualifier of the UK ESL Premiership.